You hear people saying, they couldn't make that today, right? They couldn't make this movie today. Couldn't say that joke today. Couldn't make a game like that today. Many games come to mind. Many videos, many movies, many jokes, all sorts of stuff like that. Right? Never, ever before have I seen someone suggest that Wolfenstein The New Order is a game you couldn't make today. Seems very strange. Especially since games in the reboot canon have been made recently, right? Strange. So, it'll be interesting to see the point of this video. I guess if it's commentary on the gameplay or something and what people want, mass appeal or something. But normally when you say you couldn't make this today, you're talking about people would be mad. It would be like the political correctoids would stop you or something. So yeah, Gomson says, I'm genuinely curious which angle this is going to come from. Exactly. This is going to be boring as hell if they just go, you never get to make a decision that shapes the gameplay anymore. Because that's too much work. If it's something like that, boring, but let's see.
The Wolfenstein reboot is comprised of 2 profoundly unapologetic games. They do not do a single thing to look away from their subject.
2? I would count more than that. It's more than that, isn't it? I mean, I'm not counting, like, there's the New Order, there's New Colossus, and then there's the, like, girl ones. There's, like, New Blood or whatever, and then there's the VR game, and all sorts of stuff like that, right?
Subject matter, which can make them feel grim and dark and desperate. The reboot tells the story of an alternate history, one where the Nazis won World War II, and shows just how bleak the world gets under the new regime. Wolfenstein takes a clear stance on the matter, a stance...
What, does it? Great analysis. How bleak? It's like over-the-top comic book stuff. It's not...
that I'd argue is meant to be...
There's even comic relief! And the comic relief is literally looking over the shoulder, right there. Top right, by the way.
Entirely uncontroversial, but the central reason why I imagine we might not ever get another game in the series. Wolfenstein
here we go.
hates...
Oh, Wolfenstein. You couldn't make Wolfenstein today. It would be considered a hate crime against Nazis.
Nazis.
There we go. Retard take. What was the, hang on. What was this? When did this come out? Wait, this Cyberpilot shit came out in 2019, the VR game? What's the most recent Wolfenstein? You wanna know my take? If this came out today, it would do better. If the New Order had come out now, it would do better.
The politics of the first game in the reboot duology, Wolfenstein: The New Order, are incredibly simple. The game makes it explicitly clear what we must do with Nazis, that there is no role fascism can play in our future other than to be stomped under our boots.
I mean, the Wolfenstein 2, the Wolfenstein Reboot 2 has Nazis being reformed, like the Fatoid, right?
It's a political perspective that seems largely uncontroversial at face value. Nazis have been seen as fair game to be demolished, ridiculed, and killed in media since the party took rise in the mid-20th century.
Put that phone down. Get me the radio tower. Put it down.
Jojo Rabbit was significantly more complex than that as well.
To show you just how normal and uncontroversial that stance is, here's a quick clip of Kermit the Frog killing a Nazi in 1990, something that no one batted an eyelash at.
I don't believe in violence. I don't believe in violence.
While many have certainly dissected their politics, films like The Sound of Music and Indiana Jones aren't...
I guarantee you, though, there's probably like some Nazi somewhere who was offended by that.
Aren't often discussed as having strong political dialogue despite taking firm anti-fascist, anti-Nazi stances.
Like the shit you're gonna see probably existed somewhere, you just didn't notice it then.
I think that's because those stances were largely uncontroversial when the films came out, so there's not much discussion that needs to happen for us to know that Indiana Jones isn't a bad guy for doing this. Wolfenstein: The New Order is...
Bro, is he really implying that if the New Order dropped today, there would be outcry over how villainous BJ Blazkowicz is? On a genuine, large enough level that it would stop the game from being viable? No, that's not real, you're crazy.
Of a similar ilk. It's deeply political, yes, because it centers itself around the hatred of a hyper-conservative political ideology, but when it came out, there wasn't much controversy surrounding its themes. There's not much...
Bro is trying too hard. hyper-conservative.
Much of a stance anyone would argue with being made. While there are more explicitly political moments that unpack fascism, like this scene where Jay...
Isn't the Nazism of Wolfenstein, and I mean also, I guess, to a degree in real life, transhumanist? That's not very conservative.
talks about his experience with segregation in the United States.
That's not the America I fought for.
Really? I was little. My mother wanted to take me to the picture show, but we had to go in through the fucking colored entrance. I wanted a hot dog and a lemonade, but the sign says we don't serve Negroes in this establishment.
Think of how much money they're missing out on.
You're a patriot. Blue-eyed, jarhead, motherfucking Nazi-killing patriot that you are. You're still a fucking puppet to the man. You're exactly the kind of guy they ordered in come lynching time. You don't get it, do you? Before all this, before the Germans, before the war, back home, man, you were the Nazis.
Wolfenstein the New Order's
Damn, Peter, you've convinced me. BJ Blazkowicz, Nazi killer, is the bad guy. I forgot that part. Wait, you're right. BJ Blazkowicz is a Nazi. Perhaps even worse than Nazis. Slave master, Blazkowicz. You're right, Peter! Should it be controversial to say that BJ Blazkowicz is a good guy, given that speech you just played, given that monologue you just played?
politics are relatively straightforward, quick, and potentially easy to miss. The game's sequel, Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus, received a much different reaction, however. The New Colossus was rejected by many fans of the first game for having too progressive of politics, despite...
It was ass, man. It was lame. The writing was just lame as hell. The game itself was lame as hell. The power fantasy was lame. Oh, you unlocked stilt legs! That sucks ass.
sharing the exact same central political message. So, what changed?
If you cannot see a significant difference between 1 and 2, you are retarded. It is not that the world changed.
What if the Nazis won World War II is a common trope in revisionist historical fiction because it allows the story to have an enemy that's...
Revisionist historical fiction? I don't think... What do you mean, revisionist? What is this guy trying to pull?
completely unsympathetic. To put it plainly...
I don't think it's meant to trick you into thinking this really happened and was how it was.
The Nazis were evil, and our heroes can kill as many of them as they want without having to grapple much with the morality of taking human lives. In fact, Wolfenstein addresses this topic in a scene set in a concentration camp where a prisoner asks you to kill a particularly brutal Nazi officer. She says,
I'm not asking you to do anything but the right thing.
When you return to her after killing him, she says,
You did the right thing, didn't you? Sometimes it's hard to know what is right. But what you did was a good thing. This I know.
Wolfenstein puts it plainly.
That's not... Okay. I don't think you can assume the person going like this under a tree represents the message of the creator. Necessarily, okay? It's... Presumably, the creator would agree that that would hypothetically be a good thing to do. But I hate when people go like, the side quest giver who told you to do a thing and then said it was good is the game's, message to you.
There is no
Please.
morality to...
Consider that as a message from the creator, it's undermined on the basis that of course that person would have that opinion based on their lived experience, versus it being a clean, clear, objective moral judgment, right?
Killing Nazis. It is the right thing to do. Violence against fascism is necessary and moral, because fascism is inherently violent and immoral. The unquestionable support for that sentiment, however, has started to waver in recent years. What if the Nazis won World War II, Wolfenstein asks. But are we sure they lost?
Excuse me? Careful, this is my brain. Is this guy a Nazi? Wait, hang on. You could take that as the real Nazis won, which is a neo-Nazi, the neo-Nazi propaganda. But
all this suit talk from this guy when the problem with the game is summed up with just one clip of the pregnant woman doing flips and doing
it's true, dude.
Also Afro lady ranting about testicles.
I don't remember that one though. What if the Nazis... It asks what if the Nazis won, but they did. What am I fucking... Can I hear that again?
Wolfenstein asks. But are we sure they lost?
Yes, I'm absolutely confident that the Nazis lost in World War II.
Nazism has seen an unprecedented public rise over the last 10 years or so, and all it takes is a single look at the current United States administration to see that Nazi policies are popular enough to make it into the White House. And they're not secret fascists or anything
there we
like
go.
that. They're fully leaning into it with a sickening, despicable glee.
There are some good examples you can use to try and back this up, but he's not going to. Never mind, he's not going to do anything. He's literally just doing...
Wolfenstein
And the migrant thing, okay.
hates Nazis. It hates them so much and refuses to shy away from that fact by displaying who the Nazis were with unrelenting evidence of their cruelty and lack of humanity and lies.
I mean, Wolfenstein does at least show in one instance a Nazi who didn't want to go along with it and joined the team.
The propaganda letters
the fat ass
you find scattered around the levels don't just tell us that the fascists are unquestionably good, but they also tell us that detractors are unquestionably bad, that they're rapists and murderers not to be missed if they disappear. In Wolfenstein's alternate history, Germany dropped a nuclear bomb on New York City, ending World War II, but the propagandistic news articles tell us something interesting. The in-game report cites a fictional quote from the German leadership reading, "This final act of violence may have saved millions of lives that would have resulted from a land invasion of America."
Yeah. Yes, dog, they're paralleling commentary on the nuking of Japan.
This very same explanation was used in real life by the American government.
Yeah, that's... Oh, no. Oh, bro is trying to explain this. Like people don't know.
Nuclear weapons on Nagasaki and Hiroshima in 1945, killing more than 150,000 defenseless civilians.
Really makes you think.
After all, President Truman said of a Japanese ground invasion, "My object is to save as many American lives as possible, but I also have a human feeling for the women and children of Japan."
The human feeling!
Only to later write in response to a clergyman begging him to not drop another bomb, "The only language they seem to understand is the one we have been using to bombard them."
That's not contradictory. That's a commentary on its necessity, and them not responding to anything else. That is further justification of the first statement. I also have a human feeling regarding the women and children of Japan. Unfortunately, the only language they understand is the one we've been using to bombard them. That's why I have to do this to protect them. I can't just do it diplomatically. Holy that's not... And yet he said this!
You have to deal with a beast. You have to treat him as a beast. This fictional newspaper clipping is a small detail in Wolfenstein that very clearly holds up a mirror to the United States' most violent and despicable action, and to the way that the government discusses the slaughter of innocent...
Damn, he's got a... You wanna know what it really is? Wow, Germany did the thing in this version.
Civilians as a necessary evil.
Quick question for this guy in his video about, oh, isn't it sad that people don't just say anything is justified against Nazis? What side was Japan on? Who was America doing that to?
Wolfenstein doesn't have to twist the facts or create an alternate history here to highlight the cruelty of indiscriminate violence. It just rearranges the names. Despite being about freeing the United States from Nazi rule, Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus doesn't say very much of anything specific about the current era of US politics.
Bro is going, damn, it used to be uncontroversial to say kill Nazis, and is now going, hey, isn't everyone really a Nazi? If you think about it, isn't everyone really Nazis? What is this video?
That didn't stop the game's publisher, Bethesda Softworks, from leaning into the 2017 political climate as much as possible when marketing the game's release. Make America not...
Yeah, it was incredibly embarrassing pandering. Not because of its content in a vacuum necessarily, but just because of... I guess to me, I was offended by the reek of cringe desperation, trying to latch onto it, yeah.
Nazi-free again, a tweet from the official Wolfenstein...
They could have done that in a sick way. They did it in a very, very embarrassing, ham-fisted pandering.
Twitter account reads, "Not my America." Of course, this tweet is meant for viewers to make a connection between Donald Trump's first administration's policies and the overtly fascist regime in Wolfenstein 2, but in context of the game, there isn't much specifically aimed at Trump. That doesn't matter, however, because Trump has, time and time again...
No, that doesn't matter because ad campaigns don't necessarily have to reflect what's in a game. Exactly, right?
aligned himself with the villains in Wolfenstein. At face value...
Trump aligned... Can we just start calling Nazis the villains in Wolfenstein?
Nazis has, up until recently, been seen as
Trump wants to nuke the US?
non-controversial, almost apolitical if such a thing can even exist. But now, a non-controversial statement about ridding the United States of Nazis becomes
Being non-controversial, apolitical? Bro, did you not read the newspaper clipping you just read out, you showed us? Did I just hallucinate your commentary? That seems pretty political to me.
charged with political implication thanks to the actions of the president. And it's only gotten more and more pointed as his administration takes the
You seem to be forgetting and missing something. A lot of people were getting called Nazis for a lot of things. For years. For years. I remember when. So when I was shitting on Candid, as a result of me shitting on Candid, Andrew Torba of Gab gave me a verified badge on Gab, because he liked that I was shitting on a competitor, basically. And that he could use that to say, oh, we are free speech. And I was verified on Gab. On the basis of being verified on Gab because of that, a US Antifa group put me on a list of Nazi targets on the basis that I was verified on Gab for saying I don't like a chat app. A lot of people got called Nazis for a lot of different things. So that in combination with a lot of people going, kill Nazis, punch Nazis, is like, fuck you, I get called a Nazi for all sorts of shit.
reigns once more. The politics of
I was in some... Oh! What was it? I was in one of those studies. One of those YouTube studies, and I think I was labeled alt-right. Was it alt-right or far-right?
Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus, are incredibly simple. The game makes it explicitly clear what we must do with Nazis, that there is no role fascism can play in our future other than to be stomped under our boots. The problem that the
Under our jackboots.
game begins to unpack, however, is that fascism isn't so easy.
Right. If that's what you do to a Nazi, what is calling someone a Nazi? Becomes an incitement to violence, right? Do you see why over these past years it's become a bit of a problem?
LOL, this idiot is analyzing and deriving meaning from marketing strategies. Was he not around for 7 Deadly Sins promo stunts for EA's Dante's Inferno? Or Dead Space's Granny Will Be Mad campaign?
I vaguely remember the Dante's Inferno one. I do not remember Granny Will Be Mad, but thank you.
Easily dismantled. As we've seen in real life, it does not end with the death of a leader because the ideas are already alive. Fascism doesn't just poison full-blown Nazis. As we see, the ideology trickles down to weak-willed, insecure men. The New Colossus shines some light on the backstory of Wolfenstein's protagonist, BJ Blazkowicz, by showing bits and pieces of his childhood. The scenes are an effective way of showing the poison that is Nazism by telling
Was it effective? I don't know that it was effective.
us exactly what kind of man Blazkowicz's father was. He was a failed businessman who blamed anyone but himself for his failure. The Jewish population, the black population. This hatred didn't grow in the thick of Nazi Germany. Instead, was fostered in rural America.
Ah, we must kill all the rural Americans. I understand, Peter Spitek.
Nazis aren't made when a single leadership or administration takes office. It happens when the people accept their terms and agree. Rip Blazkowicz was a Nazi.
Oh no, I didn't read the TOS. Oh man, I never should have downloaded Duolingo. When I clicked agree, I joined the NSDAP.
Before the party even existed.
Monsters did this. Not monsters. Men.
Where Wolfenstein The New Order presented fascism as
Smoking on a baby? I don't know, man.
a simpler
I think that's like some kind of Nazi experiment.
evil and only lightly touched on its American roots, The New Colossus shines a spotlight on its complexities. Blazkowicz's father was not an isolated case. We discover that the American South has been handed to the Ku Klux Klan by the
Ku Klux Klan? Opinion discarded.
Nazis, and many of its citizens are perfectly happy there. Slavery is legal again and is discussed openly and casually. For many white Americans, fascism is a system that empowers them if they don't mind ignoring its blatant evils. When asked by PC Gamer about the development of the section where we
Do you think any other ideologies also do that? People accepting things because it benefits them. That's just a fascism thing, right?
see what daily life is like in the South now, Jens Mathies, the creative director at Machine Games, said, "There was always a segment of the population who were winners in an oppressive regime, and they were willing to look past what the ramifications were to the other parts of the population."
It's only in oppressive regimes, though.
This
Alright.
scene shines an uncomfortable light on much of the American public. Grace, a black revolutionary, explains to Blazkowicz that most white Americans don't want to be saved from Nazi rule because they benefit from the systems that it enforces.
Damn. Sounds like in this one, they might not actually be talking about Nazism, and it might stand for something else.
We've been fighting every motherfucking day, Blazkowicz.
Weird that, isn't it, Peter? Do you think the second game might be saying something different to the first yet? Yet? Is that your conclusion yet? Or is he not going to go down that path?
White America, though? They done packed up and given in. See, I guess they don't have the fighting spirit no more. Nah, they just do whatever the fucking Fuhrer tells them to do.
That's baloney. They want to fight the Nazis just as much as we do. All they need is for someone to show them how.
You know who's running the South after the Nazis took over? The Ku Klux motherfucking Klan, am I right?
That's it.
So what you gonna do? You gonna go down there and hold hands with them and build bridges and persuade them to join our cause? Get your head out your ass, Blazkowicz.
This is an uncomfortable truth, and one that America is facing now. Anecdotally, there are conversations I've had with white men, people who look like me, who are fine with...
Hey, Peter, given everything that you've shown us, in the context of what can be read as Wolfenstein 2's commentary, what does kill Nazis mean? What does that actually mean?
Trump's administration because it makes their tax returns better. Fine with this because of this. Wolfenstein 2 makes it clear that
I don't think that overwhelmingly reflects the masses. I think, hold up, just stop here. They're not fine with this because of that. They're just fine with this. It just stops there, yeah.
Because of this. Wolfenstein 2 makes it clear that this person is the same as this person, who is the same as this person. If you are not a part of the solution, you are part of the problem, the game says. To me, this statement is supplemental to the stance taken in Wolfenstein: The New Order.
I like the game says. The commentary of the main protagonist is not part of what the game says.
That fascism...
What BJ was saying is not part of the game's message. The game isn't discursive, it's just, BAM! This is what it is.
Is a poison, and anyone who helps enforce it is a fascist.
Also featured in this video, being too brutal to Imperial Japan is the worst thing America's ever done.
So then why is the new Colossus controversial and seen as too woke when the New Order wasn't? There are two reasons for that, in my opinion. The first is that while fascism's public resurgence was certainly in motion when the New Order...
People didn't like it because it can be read as going, white bad, white people bad. You are a Nazi, kill Nazis.
Order released in 2014, being a Nazi...
If you don't address people reading it that way, this is even more worthless than ever. You have no idea what was going on.
It was still something to be done in private. It was disgraceful. People would lose everything in their lives if they were caught in photos with swastikas and other hate...
SWAT stickers? SWAT stickers, really?
Symbols. While that can still happen now, it's a much more complex issue because Nazi ideology is being seen as a legitimate political position in our current landscape. We're having debates about Nazi legislation on news stations.
Wait, what was the Nazi legislation? I've seen the Musk speech.
The New Order came out in the final years when hating Nazis was a widely uncontroversial stance. Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus, came out in 2017.
Hatred on the streets of Charlottesville simmering for 24 hours. It started with a planned Unite the Right rally.
Bro, I've never... Wait, I swear I've seen the left half of this photo, but not the right half.
Where tempers flared today.
Wait, what the f is this? He had the homemade flamethrower.
Images like this.
I'm serious. I only saw the guy waving the flag really clearly. I didn't see the other part.
A counter demonstrator face to face with white nationalists, an ignited spray can you can see right there in his hand.
10 o'clock Friday night, hundreds of white nationalists storming the University of
Conspicuously not setting them on fire with it though. So
Virginia.
Black man keeps Nazis warm is that photo.
Protesting plans to remove a statue of Confederate General Robert E. Lee. The overnight violence spilling into this morning when marchgoers and counter-protesters clash again, hours before the Unite to Right march was even set to begin.
There were very, very violent scenes earlier when I was down at Lee Park. Pepper spray was being sprayed by both sides.
Just the air is spicy. Both sides were spraying pepper everywhere, man. I was coughing my shit out.
Bottles and rocks thrown.
It wasn't until Trump took office in 2017 that we started seeing Nazism proudly on display in the streets of America. And when we did, Trump supported them.
But you also had people that were
on both sides.
Very fine people
there we
on
go.
both sides.
Again, Nazis have existed in the United States since the 20th century, but the
There we
Nazis
go.
Trump praised weren't secret, subtle supremacists.
Jews will not replace us! Jews will not replace us!
The people at the Unite the Right rally and other such demonstrations,
how dare they say that? We need them to be replaced.
Proudly flew flags with swastikas and performed Nazi salutes. Everything about American neo-Nazis changed.
The crazy thing is, all these people will go into a lot of detail and commentary on every little bit of stuff. And then, like, the second anything to do with Jews, Jewish people, or Israel is mentioned, they just throw it up on screen and they're like, yeah, you're meant to understand my commentary on this. I won't say anything. Suddenly, they don't overanalyze everything. Suddenly, they get quiet. Hebrew invoked.
When the president started empowering Nazi beliefs through legislation and through verbal praise. Now, Make America Nazi Free Again is a controversial statement about real-world political leaders who have legitimate...
This is cringe as hell. This was written by a woman with large frame glasses and purple hair. That's the problem with it.
Power. So a game that centers itself around an ideology as simple as...
A lot of things you can do with a hatchet. And a Nazi.
Is going to ruffle feathers with the non-insignificant portion of gamers who are Nazis. On top of...
Right-wing hate groups are recruiting video gamers. I have bad news about, like, every ideology. And look what the US Army is doing. Look at what anyone who wants people is using video games to get people.
Of that, one of the most controversial aspects of the
if that surprises you in any way, terminally retarded.
New Colossus politics is that the game is much more critical of whiteness than its predecessor.
That he knows. There you go.
As we've covered, the game highlights the idea that Nazis didn't come into power through force, but by appealing to white people looking for someone to blame. The New Colossus explores fascism's complexities by unpacking its relationship to whiteness, a conversation that many white people are still uninterested in having, especially when it's a black person talking. The New Colossus is often described in
Stop. Is it a black person talking? Or is it a black voice actress reading a script written by who?
Forums and comment sections as being too preachy and heavy-handed with its message because it's stated concretely without any hand-holding. It's bold and completely unlike most other AAA video games since they tend to shy away from making political statements to capitalize on mass appeal. Former Bethesda Softworks PR and marketing VP Pete Hines said of Wolfenstein's politics...
There's a further detail he needs to go into. What is asserted in the game is that white people's natural tendency towards alliance with the fascist structure means none of them can be considered good guys. None of them actually want to fight against it. They should essentially, because they are white, because of the color of their skin, be assumed to be a Nazi. That combined with kill Nazis, yeah, a lot of people aren't going to be into that.
In an interview with GamesIndustry.biz, Wolfenstein has been a decidedly anti-Nazi series since the first release more than 20 years ago. We aren't going to shy away from what the game is about. We don't feel it's a reach for us to say that Nazis are bad and un-American, and we're not worried about being on the right side of history here. In Wolfenstein's case, it's pure coincidence that Nazis are marching in the streets of America this year, and it's disturbing that the game can be considered a controversial political statement at all.
This is pussy mode. You know what the marketing was. This is the reason this offends me isn't because of the content of the statement, but because this is so cowardly. Look at what your marketing was, you pussy bitch. Stand by it.
And it's disturbing that the game can be considered a controversial political statement at all. Unfortunately, however, Wolfenstein's existence in the current era of American politics...
It is indeed also Mott and Bailey, Hex. But, I think Mott and Bailey is at least devious, and I can respect that. This is, I'm scared, that's not what it means.
Is a controversial
We never
statement.
did that.
Its ideas are far too progressive for a deeply regressive era of American politics. There are scenes and moments in Wolfenstein that I find truly hard to stomach. Scenes that reflect the horrors of the Holocaust. Scenes that show where we, as the human race, have been.
I don't think, I'm going to be real with you, I don't think this scene reflects the horrors of the Holocaust. It looks chill. It's like a comic book version of the Holocaust. It's pretty clean.
Scenes that show where all this leads. One of the most important scenes in maybe all of video games takes place in a New Era concentration camp in Wolfenstein: The New Order. In it, Jewish scientist Set Roth discusses his relationship with Judaism and doubt. He says,
"This woman, I know well, a zillion, the will of iron, a family gone, all of them yet."
Family Guy, I thought he was gonna say.
Faith kept her going. I cannot believe it's that certainty. For me, in everything, there must be doubt, otherwise there's no room to question.
This voiceover is goofy as hell, and I don't know what's wrong with you to pretend otherwise.
The plan.
This is
This dude, like the
Thank
game,
you.
conflates Nazis with conservative, political right, even at times whiteness, while stating killing said enemy is good, but doesn't get why people would be mad at that.
True.
Hey, this place, this is the...
Really is a good game, I recommend it. Which one? Wolfenstein 2? I didn't like the stealth elements, and I didn't like the lame upgrades, like the extendo legs.
Fruit of unquestioned, ferocious conviction. This is where absolute certainty leads.
this scene is a perfect explanation of what happens when we let...
Wait, this is where absolute certainty leads? Peter, my boy, Peter, I think there's a warning for you in there.
Nazi ideology persist. When people aren't curious about whether or not their actions are right, what the absolute certainty of unquestioning nationalism costs.
Wait, what about the unquestioning certainty that killing Nazis is good? Could that potentially lead to consequences you didn't expect, especially when the definition of Nazi can be fluid and it can be thrown at anyone? Peter, come on, please.
And frankly, it scares me. It's a scene that's challenging for me to stomach as we watch absolute certainty play out day after day on the news.
Is he not going to comment on this? Hold up. If you're a prog, this headline is something you should probably comment on. Holding migrants in cells that once held Al-Qaeda suspects. I feel like the prog would point out that this emphasizes how right it was to treat Al-Qaeda suspects this way.
The central message of Wolfenstein is simple. Fascism is a cancer that must be eradicated. However, that statement is not uncontroversial. Not anymore. We have been tolerant of intolerance for too long.
That's not the statement people found controversial. I think what a lot of people found controversial is when the game went, and that means you because of how you were born.
I
think
like
that's the part people
to have human decency and speak out against oppression and fascism. AAA,
because that bit was in the first game, and people generally didn't have a problem.
Video games cost millions and millions of dollars to make, and unfortunately, that fact often stands in the way of standing for something, saying anything at all, even when it's unquestionably right. Now that Wolfenstein has inadvertently donned a current era political message and faced political backlash, I just don't think we're ever going to see another AAA game like it. Not for a long time, at least.
I'm not sure that we will, but I don't think it's because of this. I don't think it's because of the response to Wolfenstein, especially considering following the sequel they made more.
In fact, in 2019, Machine Games released a spin-off titled Wolfenstein Youngblood that follows BJ Blazkowicz's twin daughters as they fight their way through Nazi-controlled Paris. But the game completely drops any of its predecessors' nuanced political dialogue about fascism and replaces it with nothing. The game still centers itself around killing Nazis.
Yeah. So it's a kill Nazis, fascism bad, okay?
But there's absolutely no depth to them, no exploration of their ideology. The game could replace its Nazis with mindless robots or zombies, and the point would be the same. It's a look...
So you're upset that the game dehumanizes Nazis. What do you want? This game dehumanizes Nazis and just presents them as something to kill. The game just says, kill Nazis. Isn't that what you want? What do you want? What the f***?
Into what the series could be if it aimed to be as boring and toothless as possible. It's depressing.
No, I want it to say kill Nazis, and that means white people. It has to say kill white people. I mean, it has to say kill Nazis, and white people help that. Maybe. It's complex.
See the cast of the previous games reduced to enforcing the systems of oppression they fought to.
Bro is complaining that kill Nazis used to be controversial, and then saying, this game upsets me because it just says kill Nazis is good. What has happened in this video?
And nailed to try and dismantle by becoming arms of the United States government.
You are the head of the FBI. Isn't there anything you can do?
Gone is the biting political commentary about fascism's place in America, and I believe the reason for its absence is because things were getting a little too real. Machine Games said in 2018 that it was working on a third and final mainline game in the Wolfenstein reboot. However, the studio hasn't said anything about it since.
Right. I think something that's gonna really f him up is... To my memory, that would have been around the same time they were talking about doing the, following Quake Champions. They said they were planning on doing a Doom, Wolfenstein Quake multiverse with the reboots. I think whatever Wolfenstein 3 was gonna be would just utterly f this guy's life.
In the meantime, it developed Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, which, while still concretely
Wolfenstein 3 would have included a slipgate, and you end up fighting Goroth or something.
Nazi drops nearly all of...
We did indeed get BJ in Quake Champions, and he screams when he hits 25% life or something.
The nuanced,
so lame,
conversations surrounding Nazis and fascism to simply make them generic bad guys. The game isn't quite as toothless as Wolfenstein Youngblood, however, it's certainly a step back for Machine Games in terms of unpacking fascism in all its facets. With the news that the Great Circle sold well...
Yeah, I'm orange. Blazkowicz is in Quake Champions. His special ability is to dual wield temporarily. Temporarily, he can double his fire rate. He has some kind of health regen, but when he regens his health, he yells, and it tells everyone in the map where he is.
With the fact
Quake Champions is ass, man.
that it expresses a much more risk-averse political commentary, I imagine that Machine Games is going to stick to that series as much as it can. It's just a shame. Playing through Wolfenstein: The New Order and The New Colossus in 2020.
Did any of you guys play Quake Champions? I was an Anarchy main. I like the CPMA characters. I like the air control characters.
25
Sorlag and Anarchy
is a bleak reminder of how...
Meet Shogun fed the streamer $20 super big. Yeah bro, I really hate in Doom Eternal because we never got to see the socio-political perspective of the demons, just being reduced to some invading evil force.
Neat Shogun.
In my FPS video.
Thank you for the dono, but we did get to see that, actually. We literally actually did get to see that.
Much has changed politically in America for the worse over the last 10.
We literally got to see how we learned that the human suffering in hell is out of their need to generate energy.
10 years or so. These games had something to say, something important to note about nationalism and the relationship whiteness has to fascism. They show how stupid Nazis are, believing that they can see inferior blood by simply looking at someone, not realizing...
I'm not going to say anything, but Peter, I think I could pick you out of a lineup.
They're talking to BJ Blazkowicz, a Slavic Jew. They said something about how a person's culture and heritage is actually a...
Wait a second.
Inferior blood by simply looking at someone, not realizing they're talking to BJ Blazkowicz, a Slavic Jew.
In your opinion, does he have inferior blood? They should have known. He's a Slavic Jew, the worst. They should have known if they could really tell. Peter, stop! There's another way to tell, okay? There's another way to interpret what happened there.
Said something about how a person's culture and heritage is actually a place to draw strength from by putting Blazkowicz in an ancient suit of Jewish power armor, allowing
that was so lame, man.
Allowing him to walk after having his body broken. I don't believe that
you can gain strength from your heritage as long as you're not white. Is what Wolfenstein said.
These messages were happy accidents or coincidences. Wolfenstein was about something. It wasn't meant to be a bold statement. According to its dev team, they've stated time and time again how they thought hating Nazis was an uncontroversial...
Wolfenstein 2 faced America with a reality it wasn't ready for, and that is that Jews rock.
...take, But now, in 2025, the games are incredibly bold. I hope that one day their messaging will slip back into being uncontroversial, but until then, I just don't think we'll ever see something like Wolfenstein again. Like and subscribe. Stay safe out there. I've got your back.
I've got your back!